Now, just to give some context, I watched 3 movies over the weekend: Luca, A Quiet Place 2, and Another Round. And I can say that Luca was my favorite out of the 3, but that does not at all take away from Another Round and the excellent production that it was, because I genuinely loved this movie. Welcome to Indecent. My name is Vincent and I'm here to take a look at some indie films, both old and new, to help you find what could be your next favorite movie. So if you have a heart for passion projects and low budget masterpieces, please consider subscribing to my journey on the quest for looking for the ultimate independent production. But with all that out of the way, let's dive right into my personal thoughts and feelings on Another Round. Another Round, or Druk as it's called in the country it was made in, Denmark, is a 2020 black comedy drama film directed by Thomas Vinterberg, starring Mads Mikkelsen. It is about 4 high school teachers who come upon a study that suggests that humans are born with a blood alcohol level that is 0.05% too low, and experiments with alcohol to see how it affects their social and professional lives. So before I get into the nitty-gritty of this movie, my thoughts on it, and the deeper context and subtext of the movie, I'm first going to give some spoiler-free thoughts. And one of the main reasons I love this movie is because of its captivating simpleness. It is quite straightforward. It isn't trying to trick you with any intricate twists at the end or subverting any expectations. It is actually quite predictable, and frankly, if you've watched the trailer, you have an idea of where this movie is going, where it starts, what the premise is, and honestly, it doesn't take much to figure out how it ends up, because it isn't trying to blow your mind in regards to what happens in the story, but rather what it does with the characters, and that's where this movie really shines. Another Round is excellent because of its character development. A very weird comparison to make this movie to is a movie by the name of The World's End. This movie is frankly very similar to The World's End in my opinion, but with less aliens and Edgar Wright. Now yes, it is completely differently toned. It is not at all the same style of comedy or anything like that, but it is essentially about a group of friends capturing the good old times through the use of alcohol, trying to re-establish who they are, reconnect with their identity through the use of intoxication. And I know that's a weird comparison to make, but essentially the message of the movie is the same in both ways, where as much as it seems like it's about the effect that alcohol has on your personality, it's actually just a means to an end, which is, who am I and how do I get back there? And to really sell this kind of character development, you really need a good performance. Now, the lead of this movie, Mads Mikkelsen, does a wonderful performance as Martin. Mads Mikkelsen captured this performance in a beautifully unpretentious way, because he wasn't trying to win an Oscar with his performance. At least he didn't seem like he was. He wasn't crying for the camera. He wasn't being showy. It was just real. It felt like a person, it felt like a neighbor who was going through this very real experiment and had very real results. And I love how he portrays these characters, and it doesn't take away from the brilliant acting of the other 3 supporting characters in the friendship group, which consists out of Nikolaj, Tommy, and I'm blanking on the third person's name, but they all gave a brilliant performance as well. And their role in the movie should not be understated, or do not underestimate the importance of their characters, because if their characters didn't exist, and if the environment that their characters create for the main character didn't exist, then the movie wouldn't work, because the point of the movie is the contrast between how 4 individuals react to the same experiment in very different ways based on their identity and what their struggles are and where they find themselves in life. But I feel like we're almost heading into spoiler territory now, so let me just wrap up the spoiler-free section of this conversation by telling you that it's definitely worth watching if you love European drama, comedy type movies, and it is definitely worth your time if you're just interested in finding something that you thought you might not like, because it is highly enjoyable, and even though it is slow-paced and on the long side, it doesn't feel that way, because you are captivated by the performances and the development of these characters. So definitely a recommend from me. So before we continue to more spoiler talk in this this film, I really ask that you do consider subscribing, as this is something that I have a passion for. I'm not just trying to review movies, I'm trying to expose beautiful projects to people who are looking for masterpieces that they might not have found elsewhere. So if you're interested in the smaller guy, the underdog, getting seen more, subscribe to me so that I, the underdog, could get out there more, and also the underdogs that make these movies could have their work shared on bigger spaces. Now, without further ado, we'd continue into spoiler talk. And as I've stated before, it's not like there's any twist or anything. There's a small twist in a character dying, which honestly you see coming. I mean, in a movie that's about people experimenting with alcohol, upping it on a regular basis, you kind of expect someone to die at the end. That's almost the point. It sounds horrible to say, but it's something I knew that was going to happen when I even watched the trailer. It is where this movie was destined to go. I was constantly curious whether they would subvert my expectations on that level, and they didn't, but it doesn't bother me that they didn't, because at the end of this movie, it dawned upon me that the point of this movie wasn't about the results of the alcohol. In fact, the alcohol is not what changed the people. The alcohol was a catalyst for revealing what was inside the man. In fact, I don't think the alcohol is what changed these people. And it wasn't what, as the movie progressed, was enlightening their lives, improving their lives in the way that they thought it should improve. I believe that the main improvements came from the fact that they were doing something together and they had finally have this purpose in their life. I think that's what made the difference in their lives. They finally had something to live for, because in all of these men's lives, they set up reasons for why they are unhappy. In Martin's case, there's a sense of indifference in his family. In Nikolaj's case, he's not coping with the new pressure as a father and the pressure his wife puts on him. With Tommy, he's alone and he has no partner. He only has his sick, dying dog. So even his dying dog won't be with him anymore. And then the fourth character, the music teacher, who is my favorite character after Martin, they actually don't go in quite a lot on his life. But I mean, we can assume, and actually that's a very interesting thing. They don't break down on the tragedy of his life as much as the other characters. And that is an interesting result at the end. Because if we look at the setup of these people, Nikolaj, unhappy family; Martin, indifferent family; Tommy, non-existent family; and music teacher, who seems to be doing okay. Those are the setups, those are the problems they're looking to solutions for. When you look at the end of the movie, Martin comes to a state of realization of where his life is and how he needs to grow. He comes to the realization that his wife has left him, his kids do not look at him in the way that he wants to, and it is because he's lost his essence as man, as Martin. And he comes to realization at the end of the movie, or so I believe, of this: I need to work on this, and there's no easy way out. It's not a blood alcohol level that's going to fix this. If we look at Nikolaj, it's a similar realization, and I feel Nikolaj had the most unclear end result. If we look at Tommy, I mean, he dies. His problems overwhelm him, and he was so focused on overcoming his problems with the substance abuse that he tried to fill the emptiness in his life with which we know cannot fill it, which is substances, materialistic things. And it overwhelmed him and brought him to death. And the music teacher, he had a beautiful arc where, yes, maybe you should not offer alcohol to minors, but the point is, he understood the means to an end. And to the end of the movie, he's the only person that mastered using the blood alcohol level to his advantage. He didn't overdo it, he didn't overindulge, and he understood how to be the master over it. And he essentially grew the most from the experiment, because I believe his foundation was in the deepest, rooted in the right places. And I found that quite beautiful, even though I don't agree that you should depend on alcohol, and realistically, no materialistic thing will fill any hole in your life. No hole like that, no identity defining role. But nevertheless, for the sake of the movie, I really appreciated the character arc of each character, but mostly so the music teacher. Lastly, there's the end scene right before the credits, which I found quite beautiful, and it's where Martin finally, after all this foreshadowing about his jazz ballet, he finally breaks out into this frankly beautiful dance scene, as chaotic and uncoordinated as it seemed, it struck a chord in my heart as man of this man taking hold of and letting go of life at the same moment. And I really love that. And what I got from the ending and what I think it sets up for us is it asks you a question. It asks you, does Martin in these final moments embrace his brokenness, or has he perfected the cure to happiness? Because there's a lot of room for which one it could be. And I think they're asking us this question as Martin expresses himself, not with words, but in movement. They ask us, did he embrace his brokenness, or has he perfected happiness? And that's the question I've left with you today. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think the big musical number, if you can call it that, at the end signifies. And if you think there are nuances I've missed, please let me know. I love hearing and finding new perspectives to films, and that's why I love indie movies so much, because they always seem to have so much subtext and room for interpretation that we can find ourselves in them and find parts of the movie in ourselves. But those are my thoughts on Another Round. Really love the movie, would recommend it to most people. I'm trying to think what type of impact it would have on someone that is an alcoholic. Would it help or not help them? If you are brave enough to share your experience of watching this movie, if you're an alcoholic, I'd love to hear, because I'm really interested on the real life impacts that movies had. But that's it for now. Really looking forward to seeing how this goes, and really hope that I can continue making this type of videos, because I have a passion for movies and I'd love to talk about it some more. So if you're interested in talking to me about some of your favorite movies or this one, drop a comment. But for now, goodbye and see you on the next one.